Hi everyone, my name is Paige Dillard and this is for my MLIS class, Info 281 with Professor Christine Hager. It is basically crisis and disasters and how libraries can provide information and support during crises and disasters. So for this presentation, it's going to be based off of my final paper. My final paper is utilizing traveling libraries and bookmobiles during crises and disasters. And I'll go ahead and bring up these slides now. Okay, so here we have the beginning of my presentation. As I said, the presentation is utilizing traveling libraries and bookmobiles during crises and disasters. This paper will cover crises from throughout history, the Great Depression, hurricanes, wildfires, and viruses, specifically the foot and mouth disease, FMD, and COVID-19. It will also cover how libraries can better prepare for future disasters and crises with emphasis on the use of mobile libraries and bookmobiles. Okay, so first up, so hurricanes and fires in the United States, the foot and mouth disease in the UK, and the challenging education system in the Free State Province of South Africa are all examples of how these communities' libraries come together to help in times of crisis and disaster. While the information provided does not specifically mention mobile libraries, except for in South Africa, the following information provides examples for opportunities in which mobile libraries can, in the future, be helpful to their communities during crises such as hurricanes, diseases, and lack of electricity and information materials. So first up is the Hurricane Preparedness and Response Project. So this project's intent was to reduce Florida's overall disaster risk by raising the readiness level of all public libraries to meet the challenges posed by these weather-related catastrophes. Next, we have Hurricane Matthew. In the aftermath of Hurricane Matthew, some people sought out the library system for basic utilities, and computer labs and Wi-Fi were widely used. That was written in an article called "When Natural Disasters Strike, Libraries Support Their Communities." So luckily, libraries can not only provide a place to rest from the storm, but can also provide free access to Wi-Fi for all residents. A mobile library is capable of providing Wi-Fi to customers as well. If the particular library was damaged during a natural disaster, librarians could turn to their mobile libraries to provide internet service to their customers in safe places of the community where people are congregating, such as shelters and schools. On the American Library Association website, information about hurricane preparedness and libraries is available. One of the things that the American Library Association website shares is that after Hurricane Katrina ravaged New Orleans, some dedicated librarians volunteered their time to help rebuild another community. The resources developed here, as in the project, are meant to help libraries organize volunteer events to maintain access to collections and develop community partnerships in libraries. Moving on to the Journal of Medical Library Association in regards to the 2005 Atlantic hurricane season. The authors of this journal article write, "Libraries acted as community gathering places, provided internet access for evacuees, sent mobile units to shelters, volunteered wherever help was needed, gave needed emotional support, managed and dispersed donations, organized volunteers, worked in shelters, and helped people find their family members, find jobs and apartments, fill out FEMA forms, arrange for new prescription medications, locate shelters for their animals, and many other activities. Up next, we have information on the 2018 Camp Fire in Northern California. The 2018 Camp Fire in Northern California killed more than 80 people and forced tens of thousands of people to evacuate their homes. The Butte County Library System kept its remaining branches open to serve the public. Links to fire recovery resources are still prominently displayed on the county website over 1 year after the fire swept through the county. All right, next up is the foot and mouth disease, FMD, which took place in the UK, United Kingdom, in 2001. Christine Hager in Crisis Information Management writes, this crisis became a catalyst for ICT, Information and Communication Technologies, for ICT innovation as alternative means for exchange of information, and were set up, and these ICTs were set up, such as Radio Cumbria website, interactive radio programs, new helplines, and online diaries. Although bookmobiles were not specifically mentioned in relation to the UK's foot and mouth disease, they could be used in a similar scenario in the future. Bookmobiles could deliver essential items to those affected by the disease, as well as delivering information, Wi-Fi, radio programs, and reading materials. Next, we have the Free State Province. So the Free State Province is one of 9 provinces in South Africa and regarded as a rural province. In the context of South Africa, there are different scenarios for rural schools. In all 5 districts, many schools are situated on farms some distance from towns. As many of the schools that are visited are without electricity, the mobile libraries are equipped with generators. Each bus is equipped with a laptop, a scanner, and a printer. From Mondays to Thursdays, the mobile libraries travel to different schools where the library assistants issue books to the school using an electronic issuing system. All right, so those were some examples of different crises and disasters throughout history and how libraries played a part. Now we will go ahead into our discussion. So we are going to be talking about different types of traveling libraries and how these libraries, how some of them have helped during times of disaster and crisis, and how some of them can continue to help in future crises and disasters. There are multiple kinds of mobile libraries, ranging from walking libraries to libraries on horses, books on bikes, and libraries on wheels. Our first example takes place in London, England, during the 1930s. There was a walking library in which a librarian would carry select books on a shelf attached to her back. This walking library was one creative way that librarians offered the renting of books by means of mobility. For people who did not visit the library, could not visit the library, or did not know what reading materials the library had to offer, this walking library was a solution to getting materials out into the community. And there we have a picture of our librarian with the bookshelf on her back and a customer looking at one of the books. So next up is the Great Depression. So during the Great Depression in the early 1900s in the United States, librarians in the area of Appalachia began to ride on horseback to deliver reading materials to rural communities. Go ahead and move this. So here we have a photo of two librarians on horseback, and they are carrying reading materials for their communities. The Great Depression was one of the worst economic collapses that the United States has had to endure, and many people were unable to provide for their families and children with food and clothes, let alone literature. The pack horse librarians gave the families of Appalachia a chance to continue learning literary skills and receive news. On the Smithsonian Online Magazine, an article about the pack horse librarians explains, in 1936, pack horse librarians served 50,000 families, and by 1937, 155 public schools. And by 1946, motorized bookmobiles were on the move. Once again, books rode into the mountains, and according to the Institute of Museum and Library Services, Kentucky's public libraries had 75 bookmobiles in 2014, the largest number in the nation. So while the bookmobiles started before automobiles were even invented, they started on horseback. And then as you can see, they gained in popularity, and now Kentucky has like the most bookmobiles in the nation, which is pretty cool. Okay, so our discussion continued. So more recently, the Seattle Public Library currently offers a Books on Bikes service. According to the Seattle Public Library's website, Books on Bikes brings our library services to community events around Seattle. Using pedal power and customized bicycle trailers, our library staff members visit local neighborhoods and bring the library right to you. That is how their Books on Bikes is advertised on their website. In the case of disasters and emergencies such as natural or viral, Books on Bikes can deliver essential materials and information to communities who are unable to travel to their local library, or for those who are seeking safety in shelters. Okay, next up we have bookmobiles. Libraries use automobiles to deliver their services and materials, which we kind of touched on the previous slide when we were talking about the pack horse libraries, but now we'll get into bookmobiles a little bit more. So the most common form of mobile libraries are libraries on wheels, or more precisely, libraries that use automobiles to deliver their services and materials. Again, the Seattle Public Library, in addition to their Books on Bikes, also has a mobile service described on their website. They advertise this website by writing, "With mobile services, we bring the library to you. We want to ensure that everyone in Seattle has access to information, ideas, and stories. Our bookmobiles bring library services to kids and people who may not be able to get to the library easily." So they do specifically emphasize that these bookmobiles are offered for people who have trouble getting to the library, which is very important. Traveling libraries have been a part of society for a long time, and finding ways to use these mobile libraries to better serve communities during times of crisis and disaster is what this presentation, will examine in the following slides. All right, so kind of a long quote here, but follow along with me. So before we read the quote, let me just give you some information on what this slide is in reference to. So how have bookmobiles and traveling libraries helped us during the current COVID-19 pandemic, and how can they continue to help our communities in other eventual disasters? So this next portion of the presentation will be focusing on how libraries and bookmobiles have played a part in the COVID-19 pandemic that the world is currently facing. And here on the screen, we have a lengthy quote, but it's really interesting. So let's go ahead and go over it together. So, according to an article written on Public Libraries Online, in North Carolina, Alamance County Public Library's mobile cafe, a Wi-Fi enabled van, provides wireless internet access across a mixed rural and urban region. And then North Berwick, Maine's Tri-Town Bookmobile, is currently offering curbside service and mobile hotspot access. And New Mexico State Library's Rural Bookmobile program has suspended in-person service for the time being, but is adapting their services to provide books by mail instead. Denver Public Library's bookmobiles have distribution of books and donated materials to free lunch sites, housing locations, and recreation centers. So just from this one quote on Public Libraries Online, we can see that libraries from all across the United States have come together and found unique ways to use their mobile libraries to serve their communities. A few other libraries that I would like to talk about. Well, first, before we get to Virginia's Williamsburg Regional Library, I just like to say that bookmobiles, being a means of transportation, have trained staff who can deliver library materials and internet access to individual customers as well as large groups of people. While bookmobiles are not necessarily being used to deliver essential items such as PPE, personal protective equipment, or first aid items, in certain disasters and crises, these bookmobiles could be used for such materials in the future. According to the Institute of Museum and Library Services, other libraries like Virginia's Williamsburg Regional Library are repurposing bookmobiles as Wi-Fi hotspots. So again, we see that a lot of bookmobiles around the United States are turning their bookmobiles into Wi-Fi hotspots. They are trying to bring their communities more access to the internet, because the internet does provide a lot of useful information in times of crises and disasters. Also, we have the Hartford Public Library in Connecticut. They responded to COVID-19 crisis by wheeling carts of paper books onto the sidewalks as a gift to avid readers passing by. And below we have a photo of the Hartford Public Library with their librarians and customers and their books to borrow. And we can see the type of van that they use for their books on wheels, their library on wheels. It's a nice blue van there. All right, so in conclusion, in the future, bookmobiles could be used not only to transport information, internet access, and library materials to people who are in need, but they may also be used to transport medical supplies, food, and other essential items during times of crisis and disaster. So this is something really important that we should all take the time to think about more. I know I definitely will be as I further my career in library science. While my passion at this point in my career is not in the crisis and disaster area, it's more focused on youth services. I definitely will keep in mind everything that I've learned from this class, from this presentation, and I will always be thinking about how our mobile libraries can help and support our communities during all kinds of crises, not just the COVID-19, which, by the way, we are learning a lot about what our mobile libraries can do from this pandemic, but in other disasters as well. Like, I live in California and we have a lot of wildfires here, as well as many other states across the nation. And I think mobile libraries could also be used for natural disasters as well as viral. So thank you so much for listening in on this presentation that went over my final paper. I hope you enjoyed it and learned from it. and I had a great time this semester. Thanks so much.